Picture this. The early 17th century, the Caribbean Sea, a time and place known as the Golden Age of piracy. This isn't the stuff of Hollywood blockbusters, but a chapter from the pages of real history. Hold on tight as we set sail into the turbulent past, where the line between villain and hero was as blurred as the horizon at sea. The Golden Age of piracy wasn't a single continuous period, but rather three distinct waves, spanning from the 1650s to the 1730s. The buccaneers dominated the first wave, primarily operating in the Caribbean Sea and the Atlantic, disrupting trade among the European colonies. The second wave, known as the Pirate Round, saw rogues venturing beyond the Caribbean to the Indian Ocean and the Red Sea. They targeted wealthy merchant ships from the East India Company, laden with spices and precious fabrics. Finally, the third wave, often referred to as the post-Spanish succession period, marked the peak of pirate power. This was when infamous figures like Blackbeard and Bartholomew Roberts carved their names into the annals of piracy. These periods were characterized by lawlessness, as pirates seized control of the sea lanes and coastal settlements, challenging the might of empires. They were driven not just by the allure of wealth, but also the promise of freedom, a life unbound by the rules and constraints of society. Their bases were scattered across the Caribbean, from the bustling pirate republic of Nassau to the secluded coves of Tortuga. These were places where pirates could find safe harbor, sell their ill-gotten gains, and revel in their spoils. Pirate maps, often seen today as romantic symbols of adventure, were practical tools of the trade, guiding these seafaring outlaws to their targets and treasures. They traced the routes of merchant ships, marked the locations of hidden coves, and charted the treacherous shoals that could spell doom for any vessel. This was an era where the lawless roamed free, and the high seas were a battleground. But remember, history is never as simple as it seems, and the Golden Age of piracy was a time of contradiction, where terror and freedom, cruelty and camaraderie, greed and ambition, all clashed in the volatile crucible of the Caribbean Sea. Now let's meet the infamous rogues who ruled these seas. First up is Edward Teach, better known as Blackbeard, the most feared pirate of his time. His terrifying appearance, with his thick black beard and slow match fuses burning in his hat, was enough to make many a victim surrender without a fight. Blackbeard's reign of terror lasted for 2 years, during which he captured over 40 ships. Yet despite his fearsome reputation, there is no record of him killing anyone until his final battle. Next, we have Anne Bonny, one of the few women pirates known to history. Born in Ireland, Bonny sailed to the Caribbean with her husband, only to leave him for the life of piracy. She joined forces with Calico Jack Rackham, and together they became one of the most infamous pirate duos in history. Bonny was known for her fiery temper and fierce fighting skills, and not even her capture and imprisonment could extinguish her rebellious spirit. Speaking of Calico Jack Rackham, his flamboyant style and daring exploits made him a legend in his own right. Known for his colorful calico clothing, Rackham's Jolly Roger flag, a skull with crossed swords, has become synonymous with piracy. While his career as a pirate was brief, it was eventful, filled with daring heists and audacious escapes. He is also remembered for his democratic leadership, sharing plunder equally among his crew. These pirates and others like them had a profound impact on trade and empire. They disrupted trade routes, challenged naval supremacy, and even established their own pirate republic in Nassau. Their audacious exploits were both a threat and a challenge to the established order, making them feared enemies and, to some, unlikely heroes. But of course, with fame comes myth. Stories of Blackbeard's invincibility, Bonny's romantic escapades, and Rackham's treasure have been embellished over time, turning these pirates into larger-than-life figures. Yet beneath the myths, they were flesh and blood, driven by the same human desires and fears as the rest of us. These were no ordinary outlaws. They were legends in their own time. They lived lives of danger and adventure, of treasure and treachery. They were pirates of the Caribbean, and their stories continue to captivate us even today. Whether villain or hero, one thing is certain: their legacy is as enduring as the sea itself. Join us as we continue to delve deeper into the world of these legendary pirates, exploring their daily lives, their treasure hunts, and the treachery that often came with them. Journey with us into a time of high seas and high stakes, where every day was a gamble and every horizon held a new adventure. These were no ordinary outlaws, they were legends in their own time. Imagine living the pirate life. It wasn't all treasure and rum. The daily existence of a pirate was shaped by the wind, waves, and the whims of their captain, far from the glamour and adventure often depicted. In the democratic microcosm aboard a pirate ship, each crew member had a say in major decisions. Even the captain was elected, a far cry from the autocratic rule prevalent on navy and merchant vessels of the time. Discipline was maintained through a pirate code of conduct, a set of rules agreed upon by the crew. Contrary to popular belief, these codes often prohibited fighting, gambling, and even drinking aboard the ship. Breaking these rules could lead to marooning or even death. Life at sea was a harsh reality. Pirates faced numerous perils such as violent storms, deadly diseases, and the constant threat of combat. Add to this a diet of hardtack and salted meat, and it becomes clear that these seafarers were as tough as the oak vessels they sailed. Their living quarters, often just below the ship's deck, were cramped and damp. The stench of unwashed bodies, rotting food, and seawater would permeate the air, a far cry from the image of grandeur and adventure we often associate with these seafaring rogues. Yet despite these hardships, many chose this life over the drudgery and hardship of land-based labor. The promise of wealth and freedom, the camaraderie among the crew, and a life free from societal norms lured many to the pirate life. And while pirates are notorious for their ruthlessness, there existed among them a certain sense of honor. They lived by a code, shared their spoils, and stood by their crew. It was a fraternity of the sea, bound by a shared outlaw spirit. But don't be fooled by the romanticized tales of pirate brotherhood and high seas freedom. The pirate life was fraught with danger, disease, and often a violent end. It was a world far removed from the glamour of Hollywood movies, a world of survival, where only the toughest and most cunning could thrive. Life aboard a pirate ship was far from the romanticized tales we often hear. Pirates and treasure, a tale as old as time. But what is the truth behind these legendary heists? When we think of pirates, we inevitably picture chests filled to the brim with glimmering gold, precious gems, and priceless artifacts. Yet the reality was often far less glamorous. Pirate booty typically consisted of everyday items, bolts of cloth, barrels of rum, and most importantly, food. These were the spoils that kept a pirate crew afloat, both literally and figuratively. Now that's not to say pirates never got their hands on treasure. Some of the most audacious heists in history were pulled off by these seafaring rogues. Take the daring raid on the Spanish galleon, Nuestra Señora de la Concepción, by Captain William Phipps in the late 17th century. After months of searching, Phipps's crew discovered the wreck off the coast of Hispaniola. They salvaged a staggering 32 tons of silver, along with gold and jewels, making it one of the most lucrative pirate hauls ever. But where did all this treasure end up? Some of it was spent in ports, on drink, gambling, and other pleasures of the flesh. Some was buried or lost at sea, but most of it was shared among the crew, according to the pirate code. Yes, you heard it right. Pirates were surprisingly democratic, dividing their spoils fairly, based on rank and contribution. Yet it wasn't all camaraderie and fair shares. Betrayal and treachery were as much a part of pirate life as the Jolly Roger. History is littered with tales of mutinies, double crosses, and backstabbing. In the cutthroat world of piracy, trust was a scarce commodity, and a pirate's best weapon was often not his cutlass, but his cunning. Consider the infamous Black Bart Roberts. When his captain was killed, Roberts manipulated his fellow pirates into electing him as the new leader. He then led them on a reign of terror across the Atlantic, only to meet his own treacherous end at the hands of his navigator, who betrayed him to the authorities. For pirates, treachery was just as valuable as gold. But all good things must come to an end, even for the pirates of the Caribbean. As the 18th century dawned, the golden age of piracy began to wane. The combination of increased naval patrols, international diplomacy, and the lure of an amnesty offered to pirates who surrendered their cutlasses signaled the end of this lawless era. But the pirates didn't fade away quietly. Their audacious life and exploits left an indelible mark on maritime history and popular culture. The tales of their high-seas adventures inspired countless books, films, and legends, including the iconic Pirates of the Caribbean franchise. Their influence extends even to maritime law, with principles such as freedom of the seas and no prey, no pay originating from pirate codes. So, the next time you think of pirates, remember, beneath the romanticized image lies a gritty reality, a history filled with adventure, treachery, and a legacy that continues to captivate us all.